Now, Ask Dr. Love with psychotherapist, author, love and relationship expert Jamie Turndorf, Ph.D. For expert advice on love and relationships, call into the show at 888-463-6748. That's 888-GO-FOR-IT. Or you can submit your question online at AskDrLove.com. Now, here's Dr. Love.
Welcome to Ask Dr. Love Radio. It's my pleasure to be with you again today. Today I'm talking about Anthony Weiner's wiener and why his little head keeps making headlines. And is this just a case of serial digital cheating, or is there more to his behavior than meets the eye? So stay tuned as I expose the actual cause of Weiner's sexually compulsive behavior. And I'm also going to be talking about cheating in the digital age, what constitutes cheating, and how to head it off. And then I'm going to be answering 3 questions. The first one's called Infidelity After 14 Years. And here I'm helping out a woman whose marriage is in shambles. And throughout all the years of arguing and fighting, she stuck by her diabetic husband who couldn't obtain a satisfying erection, and then after bypass surgery and weight loss, he could perform sexually, but then he began playing around with his fully operational penis, cheating on her with more than one woman. And she's devastated and asks me whether she should forgive him or move on. The next question I'm going to answer is, should I tell him about my feelings about him? And I advise here a woman who met a guy online. He's been helping her with a book she's writing, and she isn't sure if he sees her as more than a friend, and she's worried that revealing her feelings might ruin a beautiful friendship. So stick around to find out how she can handle this touchy situation. And the third question I'm going to answer is trouble while in Afghanistan. And I'm helping out a soldier who's having trouble with his girlfriend back at home. She's been pulling away. Her picture was suddenly posted on a dating site, supposedly as a joke. So stick around to find out how he can preserve the relationship until he gets back home. All righty. So now, by this point, you've probably heard about Anthony Weiner and how he dropped trow once again. And in the latest news flash, it seems he's been caught flashing a 23-year-old woman to whom he's been sending naked pictures and quote-unquote dirty text messages. And this anonymous woman he was flashing says that they were in love during their months-long romance that started in 2012, a year after Weiner resigned from his congressional office, sought treatment, and supposedly repaired his marriage to Huma Abedin. Now, this woman that he was seeing has been quoted as saying, he told me he loved me on the phone a lot during their hot and heavy conversations. And she says that he had aggressively pursued her from the start. And this is a quote from her. I don't know how he did anything at all because he was emailing and calling and texting me all the time, close quote. And she said that their conversations were all dirty. And here's another quote from her. It was sex talk mostly. That's all he ever wanted to do. I was the only one who had any normal feelings or emotions. Now notice how this quote contradicts the earlier comment where she said that they were in love, because it sure sounds like their love was a one-sided affair on her part. Now, on Tuesday, Weiner admitted that he was guilty of sending the recent round of naked photos and raunchy messages. And the woman says that she finally ended it when he got, quote-unquote, pissy at her. And here she says, and this is another quote, he wanted me to be available for him at all times, and he'd get mad at me for not answering my phone. He got really pissy. He was trying to do controlling stuff and would get jealous if he saw that other guys were being nice to me on Facebook or anything. Now, she admits that they never met up in person, but that their connection online was intense. And she also says, and this is a quote, he never talked about his wife or his kid. It was all sex all the time. Funny, he even talked about his cats more than his family. Now, I guess you might have seen that CNN called me last week and asked me to do an exclusive interview on Weiner's wiener. Well, that's not what they called it. But I wanted to share with you the analysis that I gave to them to give you a better understanding what exactly is going down here. So the first question they asked me on CNN was, how has technology and social media changed the way people cheat? So here's the deal. In the past, before electronic media, if you wanted to whip out your wiener, you'd have to open your raincoat and flash somebody. Now, having to show your face while exposing your wiener is certainly a disincentive. But now, no thanks to electronic media, it's easier to expose oneself anonymously. So when a man flashes online, for example, he doesn't have to face the instant consequences like the laughter, the horrified facial expressions that would occur if he were to whip out his willy in person. So in essence, the new media make it easier to not keep your junk in the trunk. All right. Now, here's another thing CNN asked me and that a lot of people are wondering about. How does virtual infidelity affect relationships? Now, look, this virtual infidelity is just as devastating. So what we're really talking about is a larger issue. It's what I call the worldwide epidemic of anemic impulse control. That's a tongue twister, huh? So my point is people aren't keeping it in their pants. And they're not keeping a civil tongue in their mouths. And due to the immediate nature of these new technologies, it's easier than ever for people to instantly act on an impulse before thinking. Now, with a click of the button, you can just shoot off verbal ammunition and whip out body parts. And obviously, once the impulse is released and you click send, the act can't be undone. And the sad fact is that relationships are being destroyed right and left by all this impulsive behavior. Because in the past, if a guy wanted to satisfy his natural desire for variety, he could just open up a Playboy. And if a guy wanted to cheat, he'd have to actively go out looking for it. It wasn't just as easy as a click of a button. And now, with the click of a mouse and very little effort, you can find a playmate in a virtual chat room. But these virtual encounters are real. The people are real. And everybody knows that it's possible to make a date and meet these people. So virtual flings and flirtations can easily become a prelude to an actual relationship. Everybody knows this. Now, here's another question that I was asked. How has the definition of cheating changed? Now, look, cheating is the same thing it always was. And don't kid yourself. A virtual flirtation is still real. And if you're having a flirtation or a virtual sexual encounter with someone who isn't your partner, you are still going into action. And just because you haven't actually reached out and touched someone doesn't mean it isn't real. Now, here was another question. As someone in a relationship, how can you know if your behavior is cheating? I get asked that one a lot, so I'm glad CNN asked me that too. Now, the answer I always give is study your partner's reaction. If your partner is distressed by your behavior, you've crossed the line. All right. Now, here's another one. What would lead someone to act out in the way that Weiner did? So, first you have to understand that cheating, infidelity, and even virtual infidelity are symptoms of an ailing relationship in most cases. So when a person cheats, it's often a symptom that something is lacking in the relationship. When a guy isn't getting adequate attention or appreciation, he may look elsewhere for stroking. Now, while many men may turn to cheating in order to satisfy their hunger for admiration and appreciation, which may be lacking in their primary relationship, flashing is an entirely different animal. And while it's true that when a guy flashes his weenie, he too is saying, look at me, admire me. These cries for attention and appreciation, however, do not suggest a lack in the primary relationship. In other words, most guys who don't feel admired or appreciated by their partners don't think of flashing as a way of filling their emotional void. So when a man flashes, there's generally a deeper cause for such behavior. So in a nutshell, if you'll pardon the pun, there's a normal phase of childhood development called the exhibitionistic phase, in which kids display their private parts. I'm sure you've seen it. Kids do this all the time. They're whipping their willies out, lifting up their dresses. Now, this is a normal phase, but if something went wrong during that phase, like if a kid was punished or scolded, the need to self-expose goes underground. And then later in life, the need can rear its ugly head, so to speak. So now you have a grown-up whose inner child still craves to show off his weenie and have people say, wow, look at you, what a big boy you are. So my theory is that we have a little boy here craving attention, My theory was confirmed when I heard the 23-year-old woman that he'd been seeing, or I guess we should say she's been seeing him, said that he constantly demanded attention and threw fits when she wasn't available for him. So this behavior is consistent with the little boy who is deprived of proper attention. Now, the point is, whenever there's an infidelity, virtual or actual, there is a root cause. Now, in some cases, the cause is due to a problem in the primary relationship. And in the case of virtual flashing, there are more deep-seated reasons for that behavior, reasons that go beyond the current relationship. All right, now, CNN also asked me, Anthony Weiner's trials are a classic illustration of this, and what do you make of this situation? Because here he has a relative amount of power, a beautiful, successful wife, and enough visibility to attract the attention of strangers. So, again, his flashing is unrelated to his wife's status or degree of attractiveness. When a man flashes, we know that he didn't get enough admiration or recognition at that critical phase of childhood development. And by the way, studies show that when guys cheat, it's not because they're not getting enough sex or their partner isn't attractive enough. Cheating is due to either an unmet need in the current relationship or a scar from early childhood. Now, if it's an early childhood scar, my book, Till Death Do Us Part, will show you how to cheat-proof your relationship by identifying and healing the underlying old scar from childhood. And it'll also show you how to properly communicate your needs to each other, so in case the cheating is the result of unmet needs, I will show you how to communicate your needs better. When you heal the old scars and you learn how to communicate and respond to each other's needs, cheating and flashing become a thing of the past. Now, let's just go beyond Weiner's unusual case and talk about just garden variety cheating. What causes it? How to stop it. Now, if you want to cheat-proof your relationship, it's vital that you understand the underlying reasons why people cheat in the first place. Because obviously you can't prevent cheating if you don't understand what causes it. Now, when most people think of cheating, they assume that cheating is the problem. Oh, if only he wasn't cheating, if only she weren't cheating, we'd be fine. But what I want you to realize is that cheating is actually a symptom of a deeper issue. Just like a headache is a symptom of spinal misalignment or hormone or blood sugar imbalances, food allergies, chemical sensitivities, toxic buildup in the liver or the bowel, high blood pressure, eye strain, even a brain tumor, you see? So the point is, cheating is a symptom that something deeper is eroding your relationship. And it's generally a symptom that you and your partner's basic needs aren't being met. All right, so when it comes to relationships, you got to remember most of us are drawn to people who trigger pleasurable, positive feelings in us, people who make us feel good when we're around them. And in fact, research out of the University of Washington's Love Lab yielded the finding that for a relationship to survive and thrive, couples must maintain what's called that 5-to-1 ratio. Simply put, each and every day, couples have to offer 5 positive communications for every 1 negative communication. And if couples don't keep this ratio up, according to the statistics, their relationship will be dead in 5 years. And I mean, even if they go down to 4-to-1, they don't make it. Now, when positive feelings stop flowing, and when you feel starved in your relationship, that's when one or both of you are tempted to graze elsewhere in search of a feeding. Enter cheating. Now, when you think about the body, you know that it requires essential nutrients to thrive. Well, a relationship is no different. It needs care and feeding to survive too. And I've coined the expression relationship essential nutrients, which are the relationship's minimum daily requirements. And if you know what these nutrients are and you feed them to each other, you have the best shot out there of heading off a cheating episode before it starts. Now, what I want you to also know is that relationship essential nutrients are different for men and women. So when we come back, I'm going to give you the lowdown on relationship essential nutrients for men and women. They aren't the same. And I'm going to reveal the signs also that someone is cheating on you. So I'm going to just take a brief break, and I'll be back with you in a moment on Ask Dr. Love Radio.
You're listening to Ask Dr. Love with Dr. Jamie Turndorf. To speak to Dr. Turndorf live on the air, call 888-463-6748. AskDrLove.com is the web's premier relationship advice site since 1996. Visit AskDrLove.com to search thousands of free relationship advice articles on any relationship issue you may have. Or you can submit a question to her free advice column. However, if you're listening live, why not call in? Don't be shy. Dr. Turndorf wants to help you, and this is a unique chance to get a personal answer from one of today's most respected experts. So, if you have a question for her, please call in now at 888-463-6748. That's 888-463-6748. Now back to Ask Dr. Love with Jamie Turndorf, Ph.D. Once again, here's Dr. Love.
Hello again, and welcome back to Ask Dr. Love Radio. I'm Dr. Jamie Turndorf. Before we took the break, I said I promised I would come back and tell you more during my quickie segment on the relationship essential nutrient facts. This is a term that I've coined to describe the minimum daily requirements that each of you need in order for your relationship to survive and thrive. And if you feed each other these relationship essential nutrients, your relationship will be humming all the way to the finish line. So what men need is very different from what women need. And I go into all the details about this in my book, Make Up, Don't Break Up. I talk about, there's a whole chapter on relationship essential nutrients and what they are and how to feed them to each other. But I'll just give you a little quick understanding that men's nutrients are boiled down to what I call the 2 A's, admiration and appreciation. So remember, men, the male gender role is what we call instrumental. It means they're raised to make things happen, to act and produce. And when a man loves a woman, or a man if he's gay, he's wired to move heaven and earth to make him or her happy. Now, in turn, a man needs to feel that his partner values what he does. So in short, men need to be A, admired, and A, appreciated for their strength, their power, their achievements, and their efforts to protect and provide for their women and their offspring. These are the 2 A's. Now, most relationships go sour for men because women nag and complain about what their guy is not doing right. And to have a happy relationship or marriage, the savvy woman knows that she has to directly state what she wants and what pleases her rather than complain after the fact over what she didn't get. Because when a woman falls into what I call the 3 Scrooges fight trap, nagging, whining, and complaining, in no time a guy feels useless as a man, and that causes him to give up on her, stop trying to please her, in and out of the bedroom, and go for looking for a woman who does value him. And by the way, as I said, research shows that when men are asked why they cheated, it's rarely because they were feeling starved for sex. So just so you know, since couples tend to shower each other with praise during the honeymoon phase, it's easy for a man to get seduced by the rewards of another woman who makes him feel unconditionally admired and appreciated. And when a man gets adequate admiration and appreciation from his partner, he doesn't need to go looking elsewhere for an emotional feeding. All right. Now, what are the relationship essential nutrients for a woman? What does a woman need to be happy in a relationship? Now, while men are wired to be protectors and providers, a woman is biologically programmed to look for a mate who's going to provide and protect her and her offspring. And it is that simple for women. And don't fool yourself. Even if a woman earns a good living and doesn't need a man to take care of her financially, her biological programming does not know this. And in fact, according to research, even wealthy women choose life partners who are even more financially successful than they are. Because women have a biologically programmed need to feel safe and protected and secure. And this need is fueled by a primitive, biologically based survival of the species imperative to choose men who are never going to abandon them and their offspring. So the need to be sure that a man is never going to abandon her and her offspring explains why a woman requires frequent reassurances in words and actions of her man's devotion. And I call this emotional providing. A woman needs to feel that she is first in her man's world, that he listens to her, he takes her feelings to heart, shows her in words and deeds that he values her above all others, all of which provide a deep feeling of security that he's never going to leave. I go into full detail on the relationship essential nutrients in my book, Make Up, Don't Break Up. So to find out all about this, I encourage you to read the book ASAP if you want to cheat-proof your relationship or come back from a cheat. Now, let me just take a little detour for 1 second and just give you the signs of cheating. So, again, to complicate matters, the signs are different for men and women. Signs that she's cheating include she detaches herself from her partner's family. She nags incessantly. She has a mystery friend. She deflects simple questions. And let me see what else. She shifts priorities away from her partner. She puts more energy and effort into looking sexy. She becomes autonomous, and we is dropped from her vocabulary. No interest in sex with her partner. She's secretive about her schedule. Her partner becomes irrelevant. And signs that he's cheating include less sex. I mean, obviously the well doesn't have endless supplies of water if he's getting it from another source, and so his well will run dry or drier with his partner. He might have jumpy cell phone habits. He'll start even gushing or talking about somebody suddenly. And he might be disconnecting and dismissive of his partner's feelings, ignoring you when you talk, saying so or I don't care. And he might be heartless, cruel, less verbal, less physical displays of affection. He might pull the disappearing act, the Houdini, changes in behavior, routine, traveling, disappearing, unavailable cell phone off. He's working, didn't get the message, on and on. Well, there are quite a few other symptoms. But I think I have to take a break. Let me take a break, and when I come back, I'll give you some of the rest of the guy's symptoms of cheating when we come back on Ask Dr. Love Radio.
You're listening to Ask Dr. Love with Dr. Jamie Turndorf. To speak to Dr. Turndorf live on the air, call 888-463-6748. That's 888-463-6748. If you like what you're hearing, you can learn about Dr. Turndorf's techniques for turning conflict into connection and healing in her critically acclaimed, groundbreaking book, Till Death Do Us Part, Unless I Kill You First, a step-by-step guide for resolving relationship conflict. Find out more about this book and read a free excerpt by visiting AskDrLove.com. This is Ask Dr. Love with Dr. Jamie Turndorf. And if you have a question for her, please call in now at 888-463-6748. This show is for you, the listeners, so please give her a call now. You're listening to Ask Dr. Love with Jamie Turndorf, Ph.D. Once again, here's Dr. Love.
Hello again, and welcome back to Ask Dr. Love Radio. I'm Dr. Jamie Turndorf, and I'm talking about cheating in the digital age. And before we took our break, I was talking to you about the signs that a guy is cheating. And I left off with guys engaging in disappearing acts and other changes in behavior or routine, like they travel unexpectedly, they disappear, they're unavailable, their cell's off, they're supposedly working when they shouldn't be, they didn't get your message or your text, they're now out keeping odd hours, they come home and rush to shower, suddenly they're dieting or buying new clothes or whitening their teeth, or their friends act strangely around you. He starts getting caught in other lies about other things. He can't keep his story straight since he forgot what lies he told before. And, of course, history often repeats itself. If he cheated before and your instincts tell you he's cheating, he likely is. And if you're feeling insecure, like you have to walk on eggshells and afraid to make a mistake and push him over the edge and find him out the door, that's another cause for concern. You might see unexplained charges or excess charges on the card, the credit card, or ATM withdrawals so you can't see what he's buying. And here are a couple of points I also want you to consider. Now, when I said a little while ago that cheating is generally the result of not providing the relationship essential nutrients to each other, there are cases in which cheating comes from unhealed old childhood scars. So, there was this guy that I saw who kept cheating on his wife, and she was still attractive, And so I really wanted to know what hole was he really trying to fill, if you'll pardon the pun. I did some digging, and I found out that his dad left home when he was young, and that he really felt empty inside, starved for love. So there are a couple of ways that old scars can actually cause us to cheat or induce a partner to cheat on us. For example, if you were abandoned as a child, you'll be terrified of being dropped by your partner. And this fear can lead you to suspect and accuse an innocent partner, and eventually you can actually push someone into cheating. And cheating can be a way of creating space and distance, because fear of intimacy and closeness, which itself is due to another old scar, specifically if you had a smothering, invasive parent, you're going to need perhaps to cheat to create space and distance. And you might also have a fear of being taken over by your partner if you had a very intrusive or smothering parent. Now, here's another link to old scars. When you think of cheating, you assume that the partner who's cheated on is an innocent bystander. Now, in reality, the cheatee often has a hand in provoking the cheating. And on the most superficial level, the cheatee isn't providing the relationship essential nutrients and therefore pushes the cheater away. Now, on a deeper level, it's often the case that the cheatee may actually have an unconscious need to be cheated on. Now, I know it sounds nuts, but in intimate partnerships, it's very common for one to induce the other partner to behave in a way that meets your own emotional needs. Let me give you an example. I have a patient who came to me because her husband was exploding in rage, and she seemed so meek and sweet. But guess what? As soon as I got the husband to behave and stop exploding, she began to rage. So the point is, she unconsciously arranged to get him to express her own anger for her. And when he wasn't her mouthpiece anymore, her own anger came surging to the surface. So with cheating, the cheatee may have a need to be cheated upon to create space or even to recreate an earlier abandonment wound from childhood. So it's all very complicated. But the bottom line is you got to know yourself. And this means you need to be aware of your own old scars from childhood, and you need to heal them in order to fully cheat-proof your relationship. So if you know your old scars, your partner's old scars, and you're both working to heal them, and you make sure to feed each other those relationship essential nutrients that I described, you are going to have a happy relationship that really makes it to the finish line. All right, let me give you a couple of tweets on this topic. How can I leave you without tweets? Here's one. You're at risk of cheating when your minds aren't meeting. And here's another. Give him adequate pats on the back, and he won't be chasing after some anonymous rack. Give him sufficient admiration, and he won't need to find outside sexual gratification. Listen with your heart, and she won't go looking elsewhere for a romantic jumpstart. And last, if your relationship is poor, you're at risk of an extramarital score. Alrighty. So let me get down to some questions. Oh, by the way, some questions came in about Weiner. And so let me see if I can answer a couple of those right now. Well, I did answer this question. Pictures, what's he missing from the marriage? And I answered that question. This is a developmental arrest. When it's sort of like the same example of, somebody who becomes a sexual molester or a pedophile. So you can't say, oh, you're missing something in the marriage, therefore you go out and molest a little boy or a little girl. Because plenty of people who feel something lacking in their marriage don't go out and act out in this aberrant way. So when a person is molesting a child, it's a sign of some childhood scar of his own. Probably he was molested as a child. Likewise, the flashing isn't a sign that, oh, something's missing in the marriage, but you didn't get adequate attention for your cute little weenie. There's the answer to that. Now, this another question came in. Are there clues that a person needs this validation and that you should be looking for this when you're dating? Well, if somebody is constantly saying, look at me, the person is at the very least a narcissist. But if the person unzips his fly all the time in public, well, that would be a good clue he's a flasher. So let me go to the question that came in, which really kind of applies to the general topic of infidelity and cheating. This one's called Infidelity After 14 Years. Dear Dr. Love, I am 36 and my husband is 40. And after 14 years of marriage, our relationship was in shambles. We barely talked, a conversation was painful, and we argued all the time. We continued to have sex, and we would flip-flop back and forth about starting over, and then we never put forth effort like we should have, and we have 3 children. Okay, so I worked full-time, commuted 2 hours a day, was in school finishing my degree, and doing what I thought was the best for the family. But I could not be the super wife that could juggle the house, the kids, the husband, like on TV. I stayed married and faithful, even though he had an inability to maintain a satisfying erection. Now, he had gastric bypass in October, and I was there by his side. He lost weight rapidly, and I was cheering him on. In November, he started a shutdown at his job, and this meant working straight nights for what ended up being 100 days. We made a point to call each other on our way to and from work, trying to maintain a connection. It was hard with only 1 day per week with him on nights. Yet he emailed me loving notes nightly, and I would email him back, and I really believed we were back on track. And I finally graduated college with honors in August and had my commencement ceremony in December, and he was there beaming with pride. And this was around December 15th. We argued some on the trip there, and he seemed annoyed with me. So we struggled through Christmas trying to get along. Then he was late coming home on Christmas morning. In January, about the 3rd, he bought me diamond earrings and gave me a letter saying he was looking forward to a renewed relationship with me. We had a fight on the 10th, and he seemed to overreact, saying that he wasn't sure he wanted to be married, and he kept that up for a month despite my best efforts and a genuine concern to change myself in our marriage. We had sex the whole time, sometimes violent. He bit me a couple of times that left bruises on me, and I was sure that my husband would never, ever cheat. On February 13th, I found a cell phone in his truck and discovered the nasty truth that he was having an affair with a woman who was a contractor at his job. And I was not surprised, but I was devastated. They had traded nude pictures, and he had even bought her a Christmas present. And I figured out this is why he was late Christmas morning. So on the phone, there were text conversations with a couple of other women as well, telling them how much fun they were to talk to, and he had sent them all some of his same joke text messages he sent me. And keep in mind, he's keeping up these phone and text relationships as I'm pouring my heart and soul into being a better person, and we're still having sex and using a phone he was paying for with our money. So I confronted him, and he confessed to sex with one of the women and swears that nothing happened with the other 2. But you could tell he was hoping to develop something with each of them. I viewed him as trashy and immature, and he asked me to forgive him and stay with him, and I agreed, and he told me as many of the details as I could stand except how he met the other women in his phone that he claimed he never had sex with, and he still to this day will not tell me how he met them. He becomes angry when I ask, and on the night of the 13th, I told him not to have further contact with any of them, and he agreed. On the 28th, I asked if he had spoken to any of them, and he confessed that he called her one time to explain that it was in fact over, but he can't remember the details of the conversation. Yeah, right. So he also confessed that he did not use a condom when he had the affair, and he never went for venereal disease testing. I had to do that. And he decided that he does not want to discuss the affair at all. He wants us to move past it, and I understand this to an extent, but he refuses counseling. To be fair, he has put his effort fully into the marriage. He's engaged and he makes an effort to be a good husband, and he said for weeks how sorry he was and how he wished he could take it back. So here we are months later, and things are better, at least on the surface, but inside me there is pain. And here are my issues. Even though the other primary woman is no longer at his job, she could return at the next shutdown. She continues to email him at work, and he swears he does not respond to her. And I'm so mad about Christmas and the betrayal during the time of my commencement, and I don't trust him. And every time he goes to the restroom, I wonder if he is communicating with another woman. I'm mad he didn't use a condom, and I'm jealous that I didn't get to have an affair too. And I'm mad I stayed faithful throughout this time when his penis didn't work, and the first chance he got, he stuck it in someone else. I'm smart enough to not let on that inside I'm insecure, and I'm trying to boost him and be supportive. And I know I can't continue thinking about it. It unravels in my mind like fishing line if I dwell on it. And I know there are no guarantees in life, but I wonder, given the chance, would he do it again? Am I enabling him by being supportive? And would I be better off with someone else? And should I just get over it? Okay, so listen, I'm devastated to hear your story. And I understand why you feel so utterly betrayed. Because the worst part for you is that you remained loyal even when he couldn't perform sexually. And then, when his penis started working again, he took his show on the road. And he lied to you repeatedly. And no wonder you don't trust him now. And he didn't practice safe sex, which was a further assault on you. And on top of all this, he refuses to go to therapy with you. Now, I keep on hearing what sounds like a large dose of martyrdom on your part. You're supporting him. You're there for him. Now, what about you? All I hear is you sucking it up, being selfless, swallowing your feelings. What do you need to feel comfortable to go forward with this man? And remember, a marriage takes two to tango. The elephant in the room for me is that he refuses to go to therapy with you now. His cheating was a symptom. And most people don't cheat unless something isn't working in the relationship. And the way I see it, there's a cancer in your marriage. And even though you may be in remission now, that doesn't mean that the problems aren't going to resurface. So if you don't heal the underlying cancer, you're at risk of a relapse, meaning he could cheat again. Now, I think you know this on some level, which is why you feel so uneasy. Now, instead of being so selfless, it's time for you to start tuning into yourself and asking what you need to feel comfortable and able to trust him again. And clearly his saying sorry isn't enough for you. And the reason it's not enough is because your entire marriage is perched on top of a fault line that could rupture at any moment. So I want you to mention one other thing. No, I want to mention one other thing to you. When a person is cheated on, there's a natural tendency to blame the cheater. Now, of course, it's only natural for you to feel like the wronged party. He behaved wrongly. He cheated. He lied. He didn't practice safe sex. And the list of wrongs go on and on. But here's the thing. If you want to keep the relationship and repair it, you need to stop this black and white role division. He's the wrong bad guy. You're the innocent victim. Because as long as you keep blaming him internally or externally, you cannot move forward, okay? So to move forward, you have to make a radical shift in your thinking. You have to be willing to embrace the truth that cheating is a symptom of a relationship that's not working right. And since a relationship is made up of two people, that means both partners made mistakes. Now, if you can step back from the blame game and have the courage to look at your part in what wasn't working, then you may have a fighting chance here. Now, I know you said that you couldn't have done more than you did given your work and your school obligations. And knowing you as I do, I sense that you went way overboard in all that you did for him. But I'm talking on a different level. I'm not talking about the doing level. I'm talking about feelings. So was he lacking relationship essential nutrients from you? Not the doing, but did you not give him the right emotional feeling? Didn't he feel admired or appreciated by you? So, obviously I can't go into the full list of all the essential nutrients for men and women, but the point is, if he was lacking those essential nutrients, did he then go out and seek the admiration and appreciation elsewhere? Or is it possible you over-gratified him and you spoiled him? And, you didn't set proper limits on him. You know, I'm not sure what went on there. I would need to know more. But at this point, I want you to tell him what I said about cheating being a symptom of underlying illness. And then I want to tell him that you have the feeling that you didn't meet his needs. And we all agree that he should have spoken about his needs instead of going elsewhere to get fed. And in order for the relationship to work, he needs to do this from now on. And if he's not going to go into therapy, then he needs to commit to working with you on learning how to talk about his needs every day. And my book, Till Death Do Us Part, Unless I Kill You First, will show you and him how to communicate your needs so that he and you will finally hear each other and want to respond. Now, you also need to learn to do the same thing, okay? Now, when you're both communicating your needs and truly feeding each other the nutrients, your relationship will repair. Your trust will return, and you won't always be looking over your shoulder waiting for the next shoe to drop or skirt to drop. Now, I've helped so many couples go from breakup to makeup, even when they thought all was lost, and I can help you too. Just follow the steps I outline, and you'll be back on track. All right, keep in touch. Let me know what you're doing and how you're doing. All right, I'll be back in a moment on Ask Dr. Love Radio.
You're listening to Ask Dr. Love with Dr. Jamie Turndorf. To speak to Dr. Turndorf live on the air, call 888-463-6748. That's 888-463-6748. If you've recently been through a breakup and are looking for a second chance, wondering how you can reconcile with your ex, or if it's even possible after all you've been through, Dr. Turndorf's latest book, Make Up, Don't Break Up, presents her 5-step plan for reconciling with your ex. This plan was developed out of years of research, working with thousands of couples at her Center for Emotional Communication. This is a proven no-hype and no-nonsense method that gets right to the root of the problem to guide you to the right path towards reigniting a lasting relationship. For more about Make Up, Don't Break Up, visit AskDrLove.com. You're listening to Ask Dr. Love with Jamie Turndorf, Ph.D. Once again, here's Dr. Love.
Hello again, and welcome back to Ask Dr. Love Radio, talking about cheating in the digital age, and Anthony Weiner's Weiner, and I talked about that in the first segment, so if you are tuning in late, you can find out why his little head is making headlines by just listening to the archive of the show. It'll be on my site, it'll be on iTunes, it'll be on Blog Talk, and of course on TalkZone as well. All right, so let me get to the next question that came to me that I selected. It's called, Should I Tell Him About My Feelings for Him? Dear Dr. Love, after so much suffering, I finally met someone special in a website, and we already shared our emails and Skype, and he's helping me with my book. He's even shown me a book that he is writing, and he says that I shouldn't worry because I never bore him. And he's really kind and sweet, and I felt a special connection between us since the first moment that we talked. But I don't have the courage to tell him about my feelings, because I'm too scared that he could run away and I'd lose his friendship. We know each other for less than 1 month, almost 1 month, not quite yet. What should I do? Okay, so I'm really, really happy you met someone, and I'm really thrilled because a lot of people don't have such great success on the internet. Now, if you met this guy on a website, I'm assuming it was a dating website, and I say this because if he was on this site, he was obviously searching for a lover or a life partner, not a friend. So we don't tend to go on dating sites to find friends. Now, that said, the best relationships do start as friendships. Did you know that? And the couples who end up being the happiest, long-term, maritally satisfied couples actually say that they were friends first, last, and always. Okay. Now, that said, this man clearly is behaving like a really good friend to you. So what do you have to lose in talking with him about how he sees your relationship? What does he want out of it? Now, if you ask him, you don't have to stick your neck out. Now, when he asks you, you can always tell him, but he very well may be shy and afraid that you only like him as a friend. So don't forget, women are the ones who are supposed to send out what I call the green lights. These are the signs that you are interested in a romantic way. And research shows that guys don't make a move until they've received lots of green lights. And I'm not kidding about that. Now, we always think men are the pursuers, men make the first move. No, women do through sending the right green lights. Now, to complicate matters, men say that women's green lights are often so subtle that they miss the signals altogether. So I'm thinking that your shyness and fear of making the wrong move with him is causing you to hang back so much that he doesn't know you're actually into him romantically. In other words, your green lights are more like orange. So ask him what he wants and up the green lights. And I'm betting that you're going to be whistling a very happy tune. And so promise to let me know how all this worked out for you. All right? I really want to hear. Now, this next question that came in is a really sad question. And believe it or not, I don't get a lot of questions from soldiers who are in Afghanistan. So I was so happy to hear from you, and I really want to help you. So here's the question. Dear Dr. Love, I am currently serving in Afghanistan 4 months into a 6-month tour. And I'm currently in a 3.5-year relationship with my girlfriend. And before deploying out to Afghan, everything was perfect in our relationship. There was obviously a few little minor faults, but nothing major, as our relationship was special. We both adored each other so much. And after being out here for 2 months, I had my R&R, 2 weeks off, and once again everything was perfect, and we were both devastated when I had to return here. While being out here, we would send loving messages throughout the day to each other using Facebook, and I would call once a week. After a month of being back out here, she changed slightly and said that when I'm home, she feels in a box, and she feels she has to do what I want and doesn't get time to spend with her friends. And we both said that we wanted to stay together and work on this. The next few weeks, I noticed a massive change in her. She no longer sent messages, only in reply to mine, and when I spoke to her, she said she had been enjoying life at the moment and didn't really know if she wanted a relationship, and she doesn't find me sexually attractive anymore. We had an argument, which didn't help things, but I decided to not contact her for a week and see if it helped. And she didn't write me once a message during this time, and towards the end of the week, I saw her picture on a dating site. After looking through her profile, I wasn't sure if it was a joke or not, so I confronted her about it, and she said it was her and her mate doing it as a joke, but then started having a go at me and said she doesn't want to speak to me till I'm home in 2 months. And I would not say that she is cheated, as she is not that type of person, and I feel like crap, and I don't know what I can do to get her back the way she was. She means the world to me, and her messages really helped me get through the day. I made a video after the first argument with pictures from our time together, and so far she has said it was really cute, but after that it didn't make a difference. And I bought her flowers and wrote her a poem and sent it to her, but nothing has worked, and I don't know what next step to take. I don't want to lose her. I want things the way they were, at least back on the up. I couldn't imagine coming back and her not being there when I get off the coach. Okay, so I do hear that you are on pins and needles. I really do, and I do understand why. You know, long-distance relationships are so tough. And as I explained in a recent HLN TV interview, where I did the whole, interview on long-distance relationships, when you can't see the object of your affection, your mind becomes a blank screen onto which you can easily project horror movies. And in your case, your horror movie is being fueled by her distancing behaviors. Now, my sense of what's going on here is this. You had a wonderful leave with her, and then trouble started after you left. You said she was devastated by the separation. Now, the next thing she started doing was nitpicking you and the relationship, saying that she feels in a box when you're home. She's not attracted to you. And these operations sound to me like an unconscious way of creating space. So instead of facing the pain she felt over missing you, she trumped up these charges against you. And the result was she used anger to dilute her feelings of pain. Because, when you substitute pain for anger, you don't feel the pain. You just feel mad. Now, this is a classic defensive pattern. Now, since she said that she doesn't want to speak to you until you're home in 2 months, I would respect her request. And if you remember that she's doing this in order to ward off the pain of missing you, that should make it a little easier for you to not freak. And don't forget, you've tried pushing at her with the flowers and the videos and the poems. It's not working. It's driving her away. So you have nothing to lose by letting go of the reins temporarily. Now, there's a larger issue here. I have my doubts as to whether she's really emotionally intact enough to sustain a long-distance relationship. Notice she's not thinking about your feelings at all. It's all about her. And you're the one who's away at war. So if you still want to keep her, then give her the room for now. And then when you go home, talk to her and tell her that you were surprised to hear that she felt in a box the last time you visited. Now, ask her if she knew that she felt that way while you were home. Now, if she says that she knew it when you were home, then ask her to promise you that from now on, she'll tell you straight up when she needs space. And this technique will teach her how to be direct rather than store up negative feelings and blast you later. Now, if she says that she realized that she felt like she was in a box only after you left, you might suggest that her mind is creating or was creating that gripe in order to protect her from the pain of missing you. And tell her when dealing with a long-distance relationship, some people fall into the habit of using anger to dilute the attachment, to lessen the pain of missing the other person. Now, if you can get her to realize this, and she has the strength to face the pain and share it with you, then you're going to bring you closer together and even ease the pain. But if she keeps on converting her pain to anger, she's going to harm your relationship. Now, if she's willing to look at herself and really own her true feelings, you have a chance of making this relationship work. But if she needs to escape her feelings each time you leave her for a long period, and I'm assuming that if you're a soldier, you're going to be going on other tours of duty, you're going to be in for quite an emotional roller coaster ride. So my heart is really with you. You understand that the real issue here is being able to have the ego strength, the psychic strength to tolerate feelings and not have to defend against them using very destructive operations, like in this case, converting the pain and the sadness into anger and relationship destructive acts that push you away. So I hope that she's open to hearing what I'm talking about, and I want to hear from you. All right? Now, just for a little, I have a few minutes left. Let's take a little quiz and see how well you know about the causes of an affair. So let me give you a couple of these quiz questions. They're fun. Most men who cheat are unhappy in their marriage. Is that true or false? Now, if you said false, you're right, because 56% of men who had affairs say that they were happy in their marriage, according to a study by Helen Fisher, a biological anthropologist at Rutgers University and the author of Why Him? Why Her? And Why We Love. And by comparison, only 34% of women who had affairs said they were happy or very happy in their marriage. So men are more likely to give sexual motivations for infidelity and less likely to fall in love with an extramarital partner. Now, this is a rationalization, really, because everything I've read is guys will say, oh, I just went for sex and I didn't love her. But in fact, other studies that I've seen show that guys will often have affairs even though they're having sex at home. And it's because they're not getting the 2 A's, the admiration and appreciation. Now, here's another one. Women are more likely than men to give which of the following reasons for infidelity? Revenge, sexual novelty, sexual frequency, or loneliness? Which one? And if you said loneliness, you're right, because all the research says that women will go looking elsewhere to fill an emotional void. So now remember again, we're talking about those relationship essential nutrients. If you are making a woman feel attended to, loved, special, that she's your number one girl, that you're always going to be there to protect her and provide for her, she's not going to feel lonely. So get on the stick, start reading up, discover all about the relationship essential nutrients, and start feeding each other, because cheating is really in your hands. You have the power to prevent cheating or cause cheating. All right, so that's all I have for you today on Ask Dr. Love Radio, and I am wishing you a very happy week. Keep it in your pants. Keep a civil tongue in your mouth. Don't act on impulse.